up, y'all? Welcome back to MMA Unrivaled. This week we will be breaking down UFC Fight Night, back in the Apex, Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. This is a pretty good card, not bad. We have the big one next week, UFC 319. I'm excited to break that one down, but for this week, let's go ahead and get into the full card, break it down, give our predictions, hopefully make some money for UFC Fight Night, Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. First fight of the night, we got Cody Brundage versus Eric McConico. Cody Brundage, he has had some tough fights lately. He had a couple that were overturned and ruled a no contest. I think this fight is a better fight for him. It's a way better matchup. He's going up against Eric McConico, who, honestly, with all due respect, he doesn't have the best striking, probably not the best chin, not much volume as far as punching. I feel like this is a very favorable matchup for Cody Brundage, and so, to keep this one short and sweet, to open this up, I'm going to take Cody Brundage in this one by KO. He's not a huge favorite, but he's favorited minus 230 as of recording this. But yeah, I think he's going to get the KO. I think he can really, I think his striking is better, and like I said, Eric McConico don't really have that great of a chin, so yeah, give me Cody Brundage by KO. Next up, we got Gabriela Fernandez versus Julia Stoliarenko. Gabriela Fernandez, she's coming off of an impressive win over Wayne Kong back in November of last year. When she outstruck Kong and eventually got that submission win, which was great. I think she has a great, great striking, and is very dangerous on the ground as well. But I do think she keeps this one on the feet, despite having that great ground game. And I think for Julia, that, I think her best path to victory on this one is if she takes her down. If she takes her down, works on getting that submission, she got a big submission win over Meatball Molly, and that was a couple years ago. But if she can do that again, get this fight to the ground, I think she has a great chance against Fernandez. But I also feel that Gabriela's ground game, it's still good. It's good enough to keep up, and I think she's just overall good enough to keep the fight where she wants it, which to me, I think her advantage would be on the feet. I think her striking and her movement is just, her footwork. I think that's what's going to get her the win here. So I'll take Gabriela Fernandez on this one. I say by decision. She is, as of recording this, in at a minus 440. Next up on the card, we got Uros Medic, I think that's how you pronounce it, versus Gilbert Urbina. I feel like Gilbert Urbina was a guy who a lot of people maybe thought was going to be, one of the next sort of big names in the welterweight, but it hasn't really been that way, to be honest. He is pretty good. He's pretty good on the feet, and he has a ground game. He has a pretty good ground game. He's tall, and he has a good reach. He has very good reach that I think he could possibly use to his advantage in this fight. But if he plans to strike with Medic, I feel like he's gonna get outworked. I feel like he's way more technical and has more power. And if he can keep this fight on the feet and stuff Urbina's takedowns, I think he outstrikes and possibly finishes Urbina. I'm going to take Uros Medic on this one. He's currently a minus 425. I'd say give him by knockout. I think this is a pretty favorable fight for him. So I guess I'm sort of playing it safe, but I'm going to take Uros Medic on this one. Next up, we got Jocelyn Edwards versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Priscilla is a really entertaining fighter. She has the ability to finish fights. She isn't scared to get into those crazy exchanges, just go toe-to-toe, just start swinging. But Jocelyn Edwards, she's more of a technical fighter. She has she had a finish against Chelsea Chandler where she looked great. And I think if she can keep her range, maybe mix in some grappling, she can come out with a victory here. I think all around, she's just, like I said, just a more technical fighter. She'll probably pick her off from the outside. I'm going to take Jocelyn Edwards on this one. She's currently a minus 340 as of recording this. Could change, but I'll take her by decision. Next up on the card, we got Elijah Smith versus Toshiami Kazama. Elijah Smith, he came from the Contender Series. He got a unanimous decision win there, and in his first fight, he got a win over Vince Morales, who was, in my opinion, what I believe to be a tougher fight than what Kazama is presenting to be. You know, Elijah has power, he has good ground game, and he's just overall a pretty well-rounded fighter. And Kazama, you know, if you watch his fights, he's pretty wild. You know, he'll throw them shots and sort of, you know, just kind of throw wild and super unconventional. And if he's not going to be technical the way Elijah is, you know, and he just comes in swinging crazy, I just kind of, you know, throwing anything, I feel like he is going to leave himself open for those counters. And, you know, with a fighter like Elijah Smith, he's pretty dangerous. So I mean, he is a heavy favorite, currently a minus 700, but I really feel like this is a super favorable fight for him. I'm going to take Elijah Smith on this one by KO. Next up, we got Rafael Cerquera versus Julius Walker. Julius Walker is pretty good. You know, his striking may not be the most technical. He's a bit stiff, you know, but he's very good at getting to the inside and, you know, getting into the clinch. And in a way, kind of, he'll sort of take away your power punches, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, he's got you in that clinch. He's not going to allow you to throw them big, heavy shots. And, you know, Cerquera is 0-2 in the UFC, and so far hasn't shown that he's really, like, ready for this level of competition that the UFC has. So, you know, I see Julius Walker winning this one pretty easily, maybe by some sort of finish. But yeah, I'll take Julius Walker on this one. He's a heavy favorite, sitting at a minus 675 right now. Next up on the card, we got Eric Anders versus Christian Leroy Duncan. I feel like this fight is going to be a lot closer than the lines or the fans may have you think. You know, and I'm a fan of CLD. You know, he's got good movement, you know, the jabs, the kicks. He's got that long reach. But Eric Anders, he's a very durable fighter. You know, he did get rocked by Chris Weidman and Jamie Pickett, but you know, he's a strong guy, really strong, and he's probably going to try to use his strength to his advantage. You know, try to get CLD to the cage and grapple to, you know, get that win. But I do think CLD is just overall the better fighter here. And if he can stuff the takedowns, you know, stay on his feet, keep the fight in his range, and, you know, just let his kickboxing shine, maybe get a knockdown or two. You know, like I said, Eric Anders is just a really tough guy. So he's very durable, even though, like I said, he did get rocked and dropped. But overall, he's just, you know, he's a very durable, very strong guy. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference. You know, I think it's going to be a pretty close fight. But all that being said, I will take CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, on this one. Give me by decision. You know, he's currently a pretty big favorite right now. He's sitting at a minus 575 as of recording this. That could change. I mean, it will change, but yeah, he's a pretty big favorite. I just think that we're in for more of a competitive fight than is being led on here. But yeah, give me CLD on this one by decision. Next up, we got Miles Johns versus Yan Matsumoto. Matsumoto is coming off of his first loss. It was to Rob Font, who is, you know, a great fighter. I think that was just a little bit too much too soon for Matsumoto. You know, but he is a good fighter. He's a really good fighter. He's got great Muay Thai. You know, he's got good kicks, good strikes, solid ground game. He has really good jiu-jitsu. And I think overall of the two, he's the better fighter. Miles Johns is who is coming off of a loss against Felipe Lima, who is another great fighter. I think Miles Johns just isn't as technical of a fighter. He sort of just, will bite down, just throw them overhand bombs, and just try to land, which, could be a problem when you're going up against Matsumoto, who I think has the skill to counter all that with his boxing or his Muay Thai. I think that throwing wild like that will also, leave him open to be taken down. I just hope Matsumoto learned from the Rob Font loss and that he isn't, timid or, you know what I mean? Like, he isn't holding back and just fights his fight pretty much, because if he does that, sticks to what he knows, I think he gets the win here. I will take Matsumoto on this one. He's currently a favorite, sitting at a minus 310. Yeah, give me Matsumoto on this. I think he's, like I said, just the better, more technical fighter. I think he gets the win. Next up, we got Andre Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. I like Andre Fili. I'm a fan of his. I feel like he's not that consistent, though. But I do feel like this is going to be a closer fight than people are thinking. I do like what C-Rod is doing right now. He has a lot of hype around him. He had some good wins at bantamweight, and now he stacked up a few good wins at featherweight. But I feel like Fili is pretty tricky. He's really tricky on the feet, striking. He can hold his own on the ground. But I do think C-Rod has the better striking. He's really clean and precise with his strikes. I think C-Rod wins this one. I do think it's going to be close, though. So I'll take Christian Rodriguez by decision, split decision. He's currently sitting at a minus 245 right now. Next up, we got Angela Hill versus Yasmin Lucindo. Yasmin's coming off of a loss against Amanda Lemos. And this is another fight where I think that one was just a little too much too soon for her. I think she's she's super young. She's only 23, so she's got that as an advantage. She has that on her side, the youth. So I think she'll learn from that fight and implement what she learned into this one. But, you can never really count out Angela Hill. She's won 3 out of her last 5 fights. She's almost 41, but she's always had great cardio. And she throws at high volume. Her punches are great, but I feel like Yasmin has more power. And, she's a really complete fighter who can mix it up. I'm not fully counting out Angela Hill because, like I said, you can never really count her out. She's great, even at, the age of 41. She's a great fighter. But I feel like Yasmin will fight smarter this time around. And, lands the big shots and gets the takedowns. I think Yasmin Lucindo gets this win by decision. She's currently I'd say pretty slight favorite, sitting at a minus 198. But yeah, give me Yasmin Lucindo on this one by decision. Next up, the co-main event of the night, we got Steve Erceg versus Ode Osborne. Steve Erceg really needs this win. He's on a bit of a skid right now. But I thought his fight against Pantoja was pretty impressive, but then after that he got KO'd by Kai Kara France, and then he got, destroyed by Brandon Moreno. But all 3 of them, very high-level fighters. Obviously, Pantoja is the champion and who's just dominating, But he has some great boxing, but he is a submission specialist, he's a submission artist. I think with him, they sort of rushed him up to fight those higher level guys, obviously to fight Pantoja because Pantoja's just been lapping that division. He's just been going through everybody. And I think this fight is more his speed. Like, this is more of a favorable matchup or just where he should be, I'd say. I don't think he was ready for the competition that they put him in. But, Ode Osborne, he is a pretty good fighter, who he also has really good striking. He could put the pressure on Erceg and he can outbox him. But I I think Usyk, he's been in training camp because he was originally supposed to fight Hyun-Sung Park, who ended up taking that fight last week in the main event. But, so he's been training. I feel like he's in better fight condition right now. I think he's in better fight shape. And I think, since Ode took this on, what is it, a week, 2 week notice? Just under 2 week notice, I believe. I just think Usyk is going to be ready for it. So I'm going to take Usyk on this one. Like I said, he's a submission specialist, man. Give me Usyk on this by submission. He's currently a pretty heavy favorite, sitting at a -575. Next up, the main event, one that I'm really excited for. We got Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez. He's on a great win streak right now. He's got a great gas tank. He's a machine, who can really put the pressure on people. He's got great grappling. He out-grappled Brendan Allen. He finished Michel Pereira. And, he's on a ride right now. So I think for this fight, he's just, he's going to keep moving forward. And, he's going to try to stay in Roman's face. Maybe get a clinch and, get to the grappling. Maybe take Dolidze to the later rounds and try to get the finish. Try to submit him. But Roman Dolidze is a really tough fighter. I don't think it's going to be that easy for Hernandez to get those takedowns. Dolidze, he has great stand-up. He's dangerous. He's got great hands. And if he can throw some shots to the body, I think those can have huge effect on Hernandez. We've seen him take body shots to where you can see it takes a toll on him. I mean, it'll take a toll on anybody, really. But, I think he's, plus he's got good ground game. He's got that wrestling. And he can go the distance, like he did against Marvin Vettori. I really like Anthony Hernandez a lot. Like I said, he's on a run right now. But I'm really liking the dog here. Like I said, Roman Dolidze, he's got that power, man. He's really good overall. I'm gonna take the dog here, man. I'm gonna take Roman Dolidze in this one, possibly by KO. The man, he has the power to do it. So yeah, I'm taking the dog on this one. Give me Roman Dolidze by KO. He is currently a +280 underdog. But I really like the dog here, man. For that money, I'm taking him. That is it. Let's hope we get this money, and hopefully these parlays hit. Last week we didn't do too bad, actually. But yeah, this is gonna be a good main event. The card is pretty good. I'm pretty excited for it. It's gonna be a good one. If you don't watch Fight Nights, man, you're really missing out. There's some good fights on here. Some great fighters. A lot of up and coming guys, as well as some big names too. But yeah, this is gonna be a good one. Next week we got the big one. We got DDP versus Hamzat. I'm super excited for that. I'm working on that one, and I'm just excited to watch that card. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully we get some winners here, and yeah, I'll see y'all next week.